All right, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to 412 Church Temecula Valley and our Homeschool Information Night for Valor Academy. My name is Simon. I'm one of the pastors here at the church, and I'm also on the board of Valor Academy. And so we've actually had a lot more people register to be here for this than are actually here, but we're just going to go ahead and get started, and maybe some people will be walking in as we are going. But wanted to just give you a little bit of history, and then I'm going to be introducing up our program director. He's going to be having some slides to present, so just make sure you're sitting somewhere where you can get the best view possible of the screen behind me. So if you can't really see it that good, now would probably be a good time to just get a better seat. And before we get into all that good stuff, why don't we pray? Heavenly Father, we just so thankful for education that you provide through your word. And we're so thankful for the curriculums that can be derived to learn about world history and just the events throughout time and how they connect to the Bible, and even just with the English language and the way that we can learn and how to use that. And so we're just so grateful for this opportunity to be able to offer a program to people to educate their children at home in a way that is wholesome and in a way that is biblical and that just removes the risk and all the potential dangers of being in the government-run schools. And so we just ask that your Spirit would be here with us tonight as people are learning, and that the right questions would be asked and the right information would be given, and that it would be all glorifying to you as we just want to do our best to be able to help families get the education that is really the best for them and their family. And so we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. So just a little background on what Valor Academy is and why we came up with this concept. Pastor Tim has been teaching for years after having discovered the types of things that are happening in the public school system. You know, we hear about just travesties of things that children are being taught throughout the nation. And for many years, people thought that that kind of thing wasn't happening here in our own valley. Well, come to find out, there have been some very unwholesome and ungodly and just outright evil things that have been taught and that have been allowed, that have been accepted, that have been normalized within even the local school systems in Murrieta and Temecula and Menifee, Winchester and Wildomar, Lake Elsinore. And so for that reason, Pastor Tim has routinely been telling people for years, take your kids out of the government schools, homeschool them. It's a lot better for them. It's not an easy task. For those of you that are already homeschooling your kids, you know this is not an easy thing. It's a lot of work. But because he has been advising parents this and have been really talking about the things that are happening in the schools for so long now, he thought it would be really important to do whatever we can as a church to support the homeschool movement and to be able to offer some opportunity for families of the church or even families that are not in the church but are of the community. And so when we were back at our last building in Murrieta, there was a outside homeschool program some of you have heard of or maybe have even been involved with called Classical Conversations. And so what we did is we just opened up our building to them, and they came in. There was a couple days a week that they had a program going there for one of the chapters of Classical Conversations, and it was a co-op to where the kids would learn all throughout the week through this curriculum, and then they would come to the church and they would have their time where they get together as families, and they'd have instruction, they'd have tutors. There would be different things that they do that was just a benefit of all of them coming together. And so there would be a couple days a week where we just had this group in the church, and they made a lot of noise, and it was quite of a, it would take its toll on the building. But the reality was we loved it because we knew that these were families that were doing just what Pastor Tim has been telling. And a lot of these families may have already known this, and just their own intuition or their own experiences in the school system had already decided that it would be most important to homeschool their kids. So that was what we were doing for several years, and we came to a point in time where we realized that that was not going to be the best fit anymore. But the director of that program had introduced us to this curriculum that had just been started by Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills. And the curriculum and the whole program of their homeschool group is called Liberty Education Classical Fellowship. And David will talk a bit more about that. In fact, the head of that organization has a video that he shared with us that David will be showing in a little while as well. So I won't get too much into that. But the whole point is that they already had this program established, and they had agreed to allow us to license this curriculum and, in fact, model this whole homeschool group based on what they're already doing. And so they've provided us with the resources. They've given us a lot of their time. They've given us a lot of guidance. And so in the first year of Valor Academy, we're going on our third year now. So in the first year, it was Liberty Education at Valor Academy. Well, now fast forward a couple years and it's just Valor Academy, but we're still using the Liberty Education curriculum. And as David will be sharing, we're going to have another curriculum that we're going to be including in that as well. So this whole thing is just that would cover every subject and every grade. And so people at some point could be enrolled in Valor Academy in a way that meets all of their educational requirements. And so for now, what we've got is we've got a couple subjects with two different curriculums that we're using that is a supplemental aspect of the entire homeschool way of doing education. And so for those of you that are new to homeschooling, there's some things you're going to need to learn just about homeschooling and how to do that in general. For those of you that are already involved in homeschooling, you already know how it works. And that's something that we can answer more questions on if you don't. David might even get into that a little bit as well. But so year one, we learned a lot. There were some things that were just kind of rough. When you do something for the first time, you realize that there's a learning curve. And there's going to be some growing pains. And so we definitely experienced that in our first year. In our second year, we had David Collette come in as a program director, and I'll be inviting him up in a minute. But David had his kids enrolled in the program in the first year and also was one of the tutors. And because he did really well with his tutoring, the families really liked David and what he was offering and just the time that he took to make sure that he was really tutoring in a good way. We saw him as possible leadership for the Valor Academy, and so in this last year, we asked him to be the program director, and I've honestly heard nothing but good things from the families that have been involved over this last year, and so we're just very thankful to have David at the helm. And going into year three, we know that he's got some ideas for things to improve that he'll be sharing with you and new things to be able to offer for the families. And we believe he's just doing a great job in the way that he is leading the program and providing leadership to the tutors and other people and volunteers that have been involved. And so with that, I'm going to ask David to come on up, and he'll share more with you about Valor Academy and what to expect in the coming year. And afterwards, we'll be able to answer any questions you guys have. So let's welcome up David Collette.
Thank you, Pastor Simon. All right, good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing? Good. So I was actually talking to Karen Piccone. She was the director of the classical conversations that Pastor Simon was just talking about yesterday, and she was telling me about how they, in their first year, right after COVID, they were unable to find a building, and they were actually doing it in a public park with all the wind and all the elements and papers blowing around. And they met up with Pastor Simon and Pastor Tim, and they were the only place that would allow them to use their building during that time. So big thanks to Pastor Tim, Pastor Simon for allow us in here in the first place, especially when no one else was doing that. So with that said, my name is David. Like Pastor Simon was saying, I just started homeschooling my kids 2 years ago. So I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old boys, and a 6-year-old daughter. I was a software engineer before that. for about 20 years, and kind of the same situation that a lot of you guys were in, the school system, especially with things like mandatory vaccines and all the evil things that they're teaching, critical race theory and DEI and all these different things. I decided to take my kids out of the school and kind of go full time. And that first year, I came here to 412, and I decided to tutor. So I kind of just jumped right in and did it. And I had a great time. I loved working with the kids. And so the next year after that, the program director left, and I kind of got in there and led it up last year, and we had a great time as well. So just quick introductions. I see a few people that were here last year. I want to just introduce kind of the volunteers. We have Miss Susie. Can you raise your hand? She was tutor for first and second grade last year. We got Yvonne in the back. She was our, I don't know what she had official title, but she checked in all the kids, took attendance, let people in the doors, and made sure the doors were shut, and kind of maintain those different things. And then I see, maybe just raise your hand if your family was in Valor Academy last year. So quite a few. Yes, sir. And then I saw one of the kids are here. I saw a couple of kids that were, a few of the kids right there, that were here last year as well. So yeah, let's just jump right in. Also, I wanted to just kind of see real quick how many people are brand new to homeschooling, if any. So we got a few. All right, so good. So we're gonna go over kind of the basics of Homeschool 101. And so who's been in homeschooling like more than a year? More than 3 years? 5 years? All right, so you guys that are brand new, look around. The people have a ton of experience, and you can kind of ask questions. And we'll have some times afterwards that I'll just hang out, and you guys can kind of, you guys can socialize and kind of find out more information about what other people are doing, different programs that are involved, and that sort of thing. So Homeschool 101. So just to define a few terms. So a PSA. So a PSA is a private school affidavit. Anyone that does homeschooling is considered a private school, and you have to fill out this private school affidavit once a year, annually. I believe it's sometime in October you have to fill it out. And there's forms on the education. I actually have a link there, cde.california.gov, where you can actually submit that form. One really good website is HDSLA. SHLDA. Okay. HSLDA. Do you have a comment, Lena? Yeah, so just for the video, I'll repeat that. Lena, sorry, I didn't introduce Lena. Lena is our site administrator. She did all the field trips and all those other things. Did I miss anyone else? I think that was it. Yeah, so Lena was saying that Chia has a filling out party where, is it like a Zoom meeting? Yeah, Zoom meeting where you kind of all get together and you can do that together as a community, and they'll walk you through all the steps of how to do that. So the other thing that's also available is something called a private school satellite, or a PSP. A PSP is an organization where they fill out the PSA for you, and then you can join that PSP and be kind of inside of their umbrella, and they fill out all the paperwork for you on your behalf. The third type of group is what they call support group, and I got all these kind of definitions off the CHIA of California. I forget what CHIA stands for. It's Christian Homeschool Education California, I think. Something, I'm not sure, but something like that. So this is what we actually are, a support group. So a support group expects that each family takes care of their own affidavit. So if you join Valor Academy, you would be responsible for filling out that affidavit on your own. We have tons of people here with experience on how to do that. We could kind of help you and guide you on how you would do that, but we would not do that for you. So a couple other terms before we kind of dive into what we do. Core curriculum and supplemental curriculum. Pastor Simon was talking about that a little bit. So a core curriculum based on the state of California is English, math, science, art, and PE. And it looks like it's actually health as well. I was looking at it yesterday. I didn't know health was a thing, so I guess I got to update that for my homeschool. But so any class that fulfills those requirements, and California doesn't actually have much requirements on what fulfills that. So you can do anything as far as you want as what you call history. I mean, it could just be a Bible study, and that's history, and that's completely fine. There may be some people is anyone part of a charter? So I'm not that familiar with charters, but you guys can talk if anyone's interested in joining a charter. There are some requirements on what you can teach in a charter school. I'm not sure what those requirements are, but I believe there are some limitations on religion being involved in that curriculum. So with that said, you could actually use Liberty Ed curriculum, even though we consider it a supplemental history program, meaning that it doesn't fulfill your kind of core requirement for history. It's up to you what you define as core. So if you come in once a week and you do history program, and then you go home and you dive deeper, you do more research, kind of being led by Liberty Education, then you're totally fine calling that your core class, right? So those are core class, and then supplemental is just anything in addition to that core. So if you go and you buy a curriculum, an official, you go to Amazon or whatever and buy like an official curriculum, and then you just add on to that. So like Liberty Ed is just considered an additional add-on to what you would do at home. And now I know a lot of families use, Lena, which one do you use at home? No, for history. Mystery of History, and then there's a couple of others, and they kind of line up with what we do in Liberty Education. So any questions on kind of the PSA, PSP support groups, and what core and supplemental? All right, we'll move on, and we'll be around afterwards if you have more questions. So what are we as far as Valor Academy? So Valor Academy is a ministry of 412 Church. We are a support group that builds a community of Bible-believing families. And we offer kind of both a supplemental and a core curriculum. That history from Liberty Ed, we'll dive deeper into that. That's considered supplemental. And then this other one, language arts, that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, is what I consider a core curriculum. So the curriculum, the supplemental curriculum of Liberty Education, it's in the third year, and we're going to be going over the Renaissance. The previous 2 years we did ancient history, and then we did Middle Ages, and then we're going to do modern history, I believe, the next 2 years. And I think that's mostly focused on American history, the modern history. But if we have questions on that, we can relay those to Dr. Andrade and his team. So the thing that is new is this. We want to add a language arts course, and it's based on something I've been using at home with my daughter, and was recommended to me by FACE. FACE is the Foundation for American Christian Education. And they do a lot with actually building up Christian private schools, like 5-day-a-week Christian private schools. So that came recommended to me by them, and I've been using it at home, and it's been working really well. And I got a couple videos on that, and we'll kind of dig into a few things with that. And then also, what's new in addition to the language arts, we have a couple electives. I don't think Marlene's here today. Marlene was our music teacher. She started last year, and she wants to offer a couple of electives, one for the younger kids on music appreciation and a piano class. So she's actually a private piano teacher, and she offers private lessons as well, but she's offered her services as an elective here. So with that said, Dr. Andrade and Dr. Mills and his team at Calvary Chapel Chino Hills. They made a video for us. They wanted to be here, but they were unable because they had a prior thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and play this video.
Hey there, 412 Church and Valor Academy down in Murrieta. My name is Dr. Austin Andrade, and I am so blessed and excited for you guys to be a part of Liberty Ed again this year. Hey, the mission for Liberty Ed is to administer biblical educational programs that fosters and nurtures a biblical worldview, renews the mind, and develops Christian leaders to take back the culture and the world for Christ. We do that in a variety of ways, and one of those ways is our Liberty Ed curriculum, which you guys are going to be using again this year for Valor Academy. We're so excited to continue partnering with you. We have great relationships and are so excited to connect regularly with Pastor Simon and David, and we are so grateful for you guys to continue with this vision and keeping this mission in mind. We just wanted to give you a little bit about the history of Liberty Ed and also the direction that our curriculum is taking so you guys can be prepared for this coming year. Valor Academy has partnered with Liberty Ed since 2023, and God opened up that door. I didn't open up that door. Pastor Simon didn't open up that door. The Lord opened up the door. And so we have been doing our best to walk in obedience, to come alongside and to support Valor Academy with our curriculum and the vision for Liberty Ed. We have been thrilled to do so. Valor Academy is now going into its third year, and this year, you guys are going to be covering the topic of the Renaissance era. First year, you covered ancient history. Second year, you covered the Middle Ages. And this year, you get to cover the Renaissance era. You guys are going to be using our original curriculum that has been developed over a period of 3 to 4 years in development for the Renaissance era. And we have original resources. We have studied and sought after the best images to use. We have looked over our memory work and our geography work and our coloring pages and everything in between to bring you what is known as our absolute best work for you guys as a program at Valor Academy. We would love to continue supporting you. If you guys have any questions or if you guys have any concerns, be sure to bring those up to David, and he could relay those to Pastor Simon, and they're always in contact with us. But we are so excited for you guys this year. We can't wait to see what the Lord is going to do with Valor Academy. God bless you guys with this summer. God bless you guys as you prepare your hearts and minds for next school year. God bless you.
Yeah, so I actually used to go to Calvary Chapel Chino Hills a few years before I started coming here. It was kind of an interesting story. I actually went to serve at Liberty Ed the very first year at Calvary Chapel Chino Hills, and I was actually working full time, and they said you don't have enough time. You actually have to spend like the entire day here. So I went. I decided that was at the time that I decided to leave my job and actually start doing homeschooling with the kids. And I came here, and unknowing that 412 was working with Calvary Chapel Chino Hills, and then I came to a homeschool info meeting just like this, and sure enough, it was Liberty Ed, and Dr. Andrade was here, and I was like, wow. So that doesn't seem like a coincidence to me. But
Hey there,
so a little more about Liberty Education. I have some of the actual curriculum down there in that binder. That was kind of what we used during the whole school year. The first, what we'll be doing this year is we'll be meeting on Thursdays, just like we did last year. We'll start around September 4th. I think we're planning on having like an orientation day, and then the next week we'll actually get into the classes. So just real quick, kind of that shows the different years and the rotation of what we'll be learning. So this year is the Renaissance. We kind of already talked about that. So talk a little bit about age groups. So Liberty Education uses the classical education model. If you're not familiar, it's the education model out of the ancient Greek, kind of Roman classical period, using the grammar and logic and rhetoric. Classical conversation also uses kind of a similar model. The grammar stage is mainly memory, facts, just getting things into the little kids' heads so that when they come to the future, they they can remember that they talked about it, and they'll have more interest, and they'll remember that they learned about that. I think of it as like learning the piano. When I was in high school, I played guitar, and I didn't learn any of the musical theory or how to read music. So every time I learn a new song, we use something called guitar tablature. Anyone familiar with what that is? Learned guitar? So it literally tells you, put your finger on this string for every note, and you just have to figure that out from scratch every single time. Now my son, he loves classical music, and he learned the piano, and he learned how to sight read, and he learned all his scales and chords and progressions, and he can look at a song and play it almost instantly. And I find that amazing because it'll take me a week to learn a new song where you could do it in minutes or seconds and just instantly play it. So that's kind of what we're looking at with the grammar stage, is building those tools that they need that kind of last a lifetime, so that, learning the actual grammar and syntax of the language, the grammar of each subject. So there's like a grammar of math, basic addition, multiplication, times tables, all those kinds of things that will last for the rest of your life, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you try to learn something new. And then you kind of build up to that logic stage where we get into like inductive, deductive reasoning, logical fallacies, and that kind of thinking process and applying logic to that subject. And then finally get to the older age with rhetoric, where you're learning how to be persuasive, how to communicate, how to give a presentation, how to be persuasive in an argument, so that we can build up leaders, right? So that's kind of how it's structured in the Liberty Education curriculum. We have a grammar section for Liberty. We have a logic section. We have a rhetoric section. So the way we have it broken out is we have, last year, this is kind of dependent on volunteers and if we have everyone that we need to kind of do these things. But we had the Little Eagles, which was just pretty much a childcare for 3 and 4 year olds. They did go through, they had activities, they had arts and crafts, and they had things, but it wasn't really like a dedicated learning program. It was more just watch the kids so that the older kids can go through their school program. And then we had pre-K and kindergarten, which is the grammar stage, 1st and 2nd grade, still that kind of grammar stage. And then we get 3rd and 4th and 5th and 6th. You're starting to get into that logic stage where we're getting deeper into the subjects and starting to understand the why of things versus just the facts and the dates. And then 7th and 8th, and then high school. So I know Isla's here, and I know you guys are very interested in that. So I talked it over with Pastor Simon, and we're okay with offering something for a high school, but it all depends on if we get a teacher that is kind of proficient at that level and based on what we get. So a few of the tutors from last year are returning, a couple are not. So we have a need for volunteers, and based on that, and if you guys are interested yourself, we could potentially do something like that. But so with that said, we're willing to do it. It's just based on if there's someone to teach the course or not. So talk about a little bit about what that supplemental program from Liberty Ed is. So it starts out with the community family service. So last year we did like character attributes, like wisdom and love and faith and things like that. Pastor Simon, Pastor Jake, elders, Mr. Goma taught a few of those classes, and we'll do something similar this year, but we're doing character analysis on biblical people of the Bible, men and women of the Bible. So Adam, Jesus, David, Solomon, all these different characters from the Bible. They'll kind of analyze what their internal character was, what led them to take the actions, their internal character that led them to make their external actions, and their faithfulness or their unfaithfulness to God, and kind of how to apply that to our lives. So that's, I'll go on the schedule in a minute, but so that's the first section. We do that all as a community. We go up in the youth room upstairs, we all get together, and then we break up, and then that's where we actually start our history topic. So last year, like we said, was the Middle Ages. This year's the Renaissance. We do that for a half hour. Then we jump into memory work. You see the board down there. That's an example. Each one of our classes makes a board like this. That's a memory work, and you can actually see we hand out these pages every week for memory work. We do hymns, we do geography, we do timelines. The little kids do the letter of the week. We have Bible verses, Greek and Latin words, and a topic sentence. And you see that this example, family service, was loyalty. And there's a Bible verse that kind of corresponds to that family service. So the daily schedule. So for the history course, any questions on what we talked about so far before I kind of move on to the schedule? Good? Okay. So the community schedule for the history course will be like this. We get together starting around 8:30. We unlock the doors. The kids will come in. We have that gated kind of courtyard area. They can go out and play in that area. Last year we actually kind of had them running around inside, but it got a little chaotic. So I think we'll just have them playing outside with a supervisor and get some toys, some balls, and some activities out there that they can just play and socialize and have fun in the morning until classes start. And then at 9 a.m. we all go upstairs into the youth room, all grades together. We pray, we do pledges, we have a pledge of allegiance, pledge to the Bible, worship. Marlene leads us in a couple worship songs. And then we move on to the family service, which I already talked about, led by pastors and elders and others for a half hour. And then we break up and we do discussions. So we break up into the children's ministry rooms that you use on Sunday. We have the Little Eagles childcare down there. We have the PK kindergarten, first and second, third and fourth. And then I actually did the older kids. It all depends on the age groups and the amount of people that apply, how we break up the classrooms. So last year I did 5th through 8th. Ideally we wanted to do like 5th and 6th and then 7th, 8th, but we didn't have enough kids, so we just merged those two together. And then I did the older kids upstairs in the youth room. And all the younger kids were in the children's rooms down here. So after we do the family service discussion, what I did actually with the older kids, we would get together and we would pray together. We do praise reports, we do prayer requests, and we kind of get a little update on each other's lives and get to know each other and pray together. And then we discuss the family service topic. We'd have questions, kind of pre-canned questions that Liberty Ed provided to us to discuss, or the tutor is kind of free to kind of lead that discussion however they like, within a biblically sound way. And then after that prayer and discussion, that's when we get into the actual history curriculum. I should have brought one up, but there's a 4-page history, we call it a spine. It has a grammar section, a logic section, and a rhetoric section. The kids will read, based on their age group, the grammar or the logic or the rhetoric section, and then have a discussion. And we'll pull out vocabulary words from that. We'll pull out biblical principles from that. And a little bit of a change this year is I want to implement something called the notebook method. It's the 4 R's. It's research, reason, reflect, and record. So you pull out vocabulary words, you do word studies, you research the Bible on what God has to say about that topic. You reason about that and you pull out principles based on that research. You reflect on that to apply that to your life, apply that to the children's lives, so that they can build up a biblical worldview, so that they can reason logically, right? So that God could direct their paths, right? And then the final step is that recording stage where they would take those reasoning, those principles, and they would record it and apply it in a notebook. So we'll have a notebook, and I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll actually provide those notebooks for all different ages. The little ones will just have coloring pages, so during family service, they can color. The little ones get very distracted when we do the family service in the morning, so I think having the coloring pages will be a good add-on this year. Just because we tried to do it last year, but we didn't have a good setup. We thought it through a little better this year, so they're gonna each have their own binder. They'll come in and get their binder in the morning. They'll open their binder, and we'll have colored pencils ready for them, and they can just. And ideally, I would actually like to have tables. We'll see how much work that setup is every morning to kind of put tables so that they can color easily. But if not, they can open their binder and just color on their lap. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with the youth room. It's kind of like this, just chairs. But I'd like to have tables so that they can have their pencils out and write and do that sort of thing. And then that's something else we could use as volunteers, just kind of set up in the morning, so we're not scrambling so much. So that memory work. So the memory work is what I showed you a second ago. It's pretty much what's on that board. We hand out, Joy is another one of our tutors. She did the Little Eagles, the child care. She made all those memory worksheets for us every week. And we'll pass those out. And we actually had, we tracked Bible verses and their kind of progress, but we're going to do that a little different this year. It's going to be part of that binder, that kind of recording part of that binder. We're going to have a list of the verses, and they can kind of get it checked off in class. Rather than last year, I kind of was the bottleneck. Everyone had to come to me, and it just by the halfway through the year, people just stopped doing it. So they'll get those checked off in class by their personal tutor, so that it's not me trying to check 30, 40 kids. It's just the tutor doing their 6 to 8 to 10 kids in their classroom. And then presentation. So presentation is another big component. That's the last half hour of the class. Each week, we will have a presentation topic. We usually try to have it do something to do with that history topic, somehow to relate it, but not necessarily. If there's a holiday coming up, we can have it do with a holiday or a field trip or something like that as well. But they'll have a presentation topic, and each kid will come up and speak in front of the classroom for 3 or 4 minutes, depending on the size of the class. If there's more kids, they don't have as much time. And that worked out real well. I know in our kindergarten class last year, we didn't have that many kids. We only had 2 kids, so it didn't work out that well in that one class, but the rest of the classes, the kids would get up there. And we have tons of videos and pictures we can share with you guys if you're kind of interested to see that. And they have a great time. They're nervous at first, but towards the end of the year, they get up there, and they're pretty confident. Some of them are still shy, but they're getting over that fear, and others just, they just go with it, and they have no issues whatsoever. And it's really nice to kind of see that growth over the year, and to kind of build up those leadership skills so that they can go out into the world and share their knowledge. And then, so we plan on doing a couple of electives. So I talked about that already, music appreciation for the little ones, and piano for 3rd through 8th, I believe, is what we said. So we'll do a quick lunch break, 30 minutes. They can play out in that courtyard, they can eat their lunch in the kitchen area, and then they'll come back and they could do those electives. And if anyone's interested in teaching an elective, they got some skill that they would like to share with the kids, they're good at woodworking, or they're good at sewing, or they're good cooking, whatever skill you have that you'd like to teach an elective, you're more than welcome to come and chat with me, and we'd love to offer those classes to the kids. All right, so that's the first subject. That's what we did last year. A few small changes with the electives, and then adding that notebook. But this is what I've been recommended from with the FACE organization that I talked about, the Foundation of American Christian Education. FACE.net is their website. I actually took a couple courses. They offer a whole bunch of training, and then also these other ones. This is called the AMO program. I just signed up for a training course, and Dr. Humans is the author, and she called me up. I was like, And we had like an hour-long conversation. She told me all about it, and she's a really brilliant lady and loves God, and she wrote she's actually one of the authors at Face as well. And they have something called the Noah program. She was the author of that, and then she goes around the world. She teaches in Africa and South America, and now she's recently kind of focusing back in the United States. And she has these two, well, she has a whole bunch, but they have Bible topics and then they have literature. And I kind of put one of each for these language arts. So the timeline of promise, we'll get in that, and then I think most people know what Little House in the Big Woods is. We'll go into that a little bit as well. But the big one, well, let's see. Mondays. Yeah, so my hope is to make it on Mondays. The church is available that day. It kind of depends on, I reached out to a few parents, and it sounds like most of the families are good on Mondays, but I know you guys are involved in other organizations and things that could block that. So worst case, what we would do if we can't get enough interest on Mondays is just offer maybe a reduced portion of this as an elective on Thursday. But my hope is to kind of do all this on Mondays. So as far as the schedule, it would correspond to the same schedule as the history class. So what we usually do is meet 3 weeks and then have a week off where we do a field trip. So this would be on the same week that we have the history class. It would just be on Monday instead of Thursday. And then we're trying to do this just to a reduced group, just because we're trying it for the first time. So we're going to do it with the younger ones. And then it's actually not totally geared toward, the actual curriculum itself can be taught up to high school and college level. And I've been teaching it to my daughter, and I'm starting to teach it my older sons as well. And it's very, we'll get into the details, but it's very logical, it's very rigorous in their rules and the kind of technical way to spell. And so I got a couple videos. We'll see if they work. I'm not sure if the streaming is going to work, but we'll get into the details of that in a sec. So, like I said, I consider this a core curriculum. This would, especially for a kindergartner, this, you have your literature, you have this kind of Bible as a reader, you have a spelling class, and then this phonemic awareness is just some games that we'll talk about that we'll play in the morning. So yeah, it's just quick on the phonemic awareness. This is just getting kids used to the kind of structure of a word, right? For a little kid, they have no idea what a word actually means, right? They intuitively know how to speak, but they have no idea that a word is made up of different sounds that you put them together, and they're structured, and then when in a sequence, and then that's how you make a word that conveys some idea to communicate to someone else. That's intuitively obvious to everyone, but the technical kind of understanding of that is not obvious, right? So this is a bunch of games that kind of teach rhyming, alliteration, just listening skills. Well, they have games where you just play sounds, and they have to listen, and they have to learn to raise their hand and say, before you call on them, and say, oh, that's a chicken, or that sort of thing. There's games like Duck, Duck, Goose, where you rhyme, and when the word rhymes, then you get up and you touch the kid and you play games and run around. So there's a whole bunch of games, and they get progressively more difficult. Eventually, you're getting into like subject, verbs, and the structure of a sentence, and building up that knowledge of how to build those sounds up into a word, how to build those words up into a sentence, how to build those sentences up into paragraphs and thoughts and ideas. And eventually you're writing papers and essays and giving presentations and things like that. So spell to read and write. So this is something I actually just started based on a recommendation of a homeschool group based on that FACE program that they recommended to me with my daughter. And it's a very interesting way of doing it. It's actually based on, has anyone heard of the Writing Road to Reading? Anyone? Okay. So it takes a unique approach to reading. It actually teaches spelling before you read. So it goes into a bunch of different different sensories, visual, listening, writing, the physical, and does all these different approaches at once. It starts out with what they call a phonogram. A phonogram is just a sound. It's a symbol associated with a sound. So A is A, ah. You got 3 sounds associated to the symbol A. And you don't actually learn the letters because the letter names don't help you read, right? If you got cap and you say CAP, that doesn't help you to read the word cap, right? You think CAP, that means nothing to a child, right? So they learn how to sound it out. They learn the most common sounds for the letter in order. So, for example, A has a, ah, and we use these kind of finger symbols to say, so a is the most common sound for the letter A, and then a, and then a, and then ah. And then once they learn, so there's 70 of those. They start out with the 26 letters of the alphabet. Those are the first 26 phonograms. And then you start getting 2-letter phonograms like ER and OR and AI and all these different ones and all these different sounds. And there's up to 70 different sounds. So this actually works. Preschoolers can do this. Once they have that mastered, we review it every single year. So it's basically a 4 to 5 year program. They build up these sounds, and then once they know these sounds and all these different groupings of letters. So like OUGH is like a 4-letter phonogram, and it's like there's like 6 different sounds that go with OUGH. That's like more advanced. That'll get towards the end of the year. But in a single year, they'll learn all 70 of those, and then they'll start applying spelling rules. So there's 29 different spelling rules. That red book. So just a couple examples. C usually says K. C says before E, I, and Y, like cent, city, and circle. So there's a whole bunch of different rules like this. And then as you're teaching the kids spelling words, you tell them these rules. You don't really, when they're real little, you don't kind of memorize these rules. You just kind of repeat it over and over again, and eventually they internalize it. And then at a certain point, you actually have memory cards, and they start memorizing these rules and kind of build up year after year. So after they kind of master these basic, a certain amount of the phonograms, they learn these spelling rules, and then they start having spelling words every week. And then they have a little red log book where the kindergartner usually does around 10 words, and as they progress, they can do 20 words a week, maybe more, as they get older. And every week they kind of focus on a certain new set of phonograms. So they might learn the SH one week, and then 5 different ones, and then they'll have spelling words that apply those phonograms, and then they'll have certain rules that apply to those spelling words, and they just repeat those week after week, and then eventually they build up an understanding of the language and of how to spell that they can't master. The English language is such a way that you can't give them a word and there's a 100% chance you know how to spell it. That's not impossible because there's knowledge and memorization required for you to do that. But with these rules, with these phonograms, you can get very good at it. And so let me see if I can play this video. So this is Wanda Sansari. She's the actual author of this curriculum. It won't let me maximize it.
Hi, I'm Wanda Sansari, and I know that you have a desire to teach students good English skills. Some of us understand that can be a challenge for a number of reasons. One, English is the largest language in the known world ever. In the Chinese dictionary, there are 12,000 words. The French dictionary, there are 100,000 words, and in German, 300,000. The English dictionaries are ranging between 500,000 and 1,000,000 words, double the size of any other language in the world, and yet a desirable language to learn. So where does the teacher begin? It's a complex language, and how would we remember ever all of those words? I'm going to share with you hidden secrets to language that's
So this is a DVD.
to
This is
come
just
to
a
the
simple- that's
solution.
the name of that
First,
DVD.
we targeted an essential group of core words, the workhorse words of the language, that with those words and their common derivatives, we have 80% of the words that are commonly used just to write and read. From that, we have built and analyzed the concise
Those are the phonogram
components
cards that you work
of
with the
what
kids for
these
memorization.
words are built from. We have a set of what we call 70 basic phonograms. There'll be letters, a combination of letters that represent the sounds of speech. And then looking at rules that govern spelling, rules that are reliable rules, rules that will work. So what we're going to be showing you will be these core elements that streamline the presentation of the code of the English language into 98 clear, reliable pieces that you could even start teaching the youngest child, but that will still work at the highest level of vocabulary. Then we're going to teach the child how to apply this when they actually come into spelling words, how to maximize the memory power of the brain to be able to retain all this, not just dead memory of copying over and over and over and looking, but how can we make the best use of our brain? We will give you 2 secrets for doing that. One is what we call think to spell, where we will exaggerate words to match the way they're actually spelled, fitting with the phonograms and fitting with the spelling rules that we teach. Some of the words sound silly. We're not trying to match pronunciation, but we're trying to build that heavier implant into the brain, how the word is actually spelled. To maximize our brain power, we will do what we call simultaneous multisensory instruction. So we're using all of the learning avenues in the brain to language, the hearing, the saying, the writing, and the seeing, with sight last, just as it would be for spelling. And this way, our children learn to spell their way to be able to write and read. And they do so with strength in a way that they could not have without these secrets. So we're going to...
Yeah, so to give you an example of that kind of multisensory teaching of spelling words, like I said, we have 10 spelling words, and you have a script. You start out, you say the word, you use the word in a sentence, so it could be short. I don't know, it could be, today went really fast and it seems short, right? You could use it in a sentence like that, and then you repeat the word, and then you say the phonogram, and then you hold up fingers, and you're like, sh. Sh is a 2-letter phonogram, so you do 2 fingers, and then or is a 2-letter, and then t. So you say sh or t. And then you tell the kid, say it as you write it. So first they're hearing it, they're seeing you say it, and then they're saying it in their own head, and then they're writing it down, and then you tell them, now read the word from your paper. They read it back to you, and they tell you how to spell it. They'll say the same thing. They'll say sh or t, and you write it, and then you say, does your word look like mine? So they can see if they spelled it correctly. And you say, make corrections, and then you do markings. There's markings for like, we use the example of A. So if it made the ah sound, that's the 3rd sound, so you put a little 3 over it. If it's a 2-letter phonogram, you underline it, so you know that's a 2-letter sound. You don't say s, huh, you say sh. And so they don't get confused when do you break up the sounds and when you put together. They know that those 2 letters always make a sound together. So we better hurry up. We're actually getting to the end, so let me go a little quicker. But this is the thing that I'm kind of most passionate about, and I think it'll be really helpful to our community to kind of really get a strong base for English and the spelling, and it integrates grammar, it integrates other aspects of English as well into the kind of spelling words. But let's move on from that. So I was talking about the ALMA program. So we're going to have a 30 to 40 minute section where we're just going to read to the kids. They have a coloring page that goes along with it. It comes with a vocabulary word and a biblical principle. So we talked about those 4R methods that research, reason, reflect, and record. This has all that research done for you. It has that reasoning done for you. The biblical principles already pulled out. So you'll read a story from Little House in the Big Woods, and it'll have some sort of family value or some biblical topic that it'll apply to that section of the reading. They'll do their coloring page, and then we'll have questions that we discuss afterwards. So just real high level, you can see my mouse. You can see at the top, you can see there's your reading section. You read from this part of Little House. You have a principle. It is wise to work, but I can't read it from here. Let me see. It is wise to work and lay aside provisions for the future when they are available. And then they have a scripture, Proverbs 10:5, that kind of supports that principle. So that was the research that was done to find that scripture. And then they took a principle, and then you see up here you have these reasoning questions. After you read it, they will kind of discuss these questions. And they can, if the older kids, maybe the first and second graders, they can start recording that in their notebook. The younger kids, kindergartners and first grade, or preschool kindergartners that don't know how to write yet, they could maybe trace a few words, or they just do their coloring pages to kind of record. So here's an example of the coloring page, and then they call it a graphical organizer page that they would use to document those reasoning questions. So in a similar fashion, we have the Bible reading, and this uses an illustrated Bible. So these kind of picture books that have the words and these stories, kind of the key stories of the Bible. This kind of goes through kind of a survey of the entire Bible and does the same thing, pulls out those biblical principles, has a vocabulary word, has a coloring page, and we'll read to them during that class, and they'll do the document. So on the first day, they'll fill out this little cover page in their notebook. The little kids can trace their name on that and color this page. They have a coloring page to go along with it. And then the same thing. So that first principle was, God is the author of history, set in motion his plan for man before he created the world. And then the scripture, for God has allowed us to know the secrets of his plan. And it is this, he proposed long ago in his sovereign will that all human history should be fulfilled in Christ. So each one of these, and then where's the actual, so this one uses the illustrated Bible. I have a copy of it there. It's similar to, I know a lot of the kids use the Action Bible. It's similar to something like that. You know, it has a lot of the pictures and kind of summaries of the stories, but not the actual text of the Bible. So the schedule, just go over it real quick. This one is the plan to have a Monday, similar. We get here at 8:30. Kids can play in the courtyard. At 9 o'clock, we'll gather together based on age group in the children's rooms. They'll do those phonemic awareness games in the morning to kind of get their minds ready for the day, get them in the mood for learning and listening. Then they'll do their Bible reading, their coloring page for the Bible reading, answer those reasoning questions based on that Bible topic for the day. And then we'll get into the spelling rules. Now this is where it's kind of a core class, because the only way this will work is if you're memorizing those phonograms and doing that work at home, so that when the next week you come, the kids are ready and they know them. Now, if they're only doing it that week, it's probably not going to be a huge benefit to them, where that's a little different from the history class, right? They can kind of take that and internalize just a history class, and that'd be enough for the week. But this is really a skill that they have to build up over the course of the year and be active daily memorizing their phonograms. Actually, so I have the actual cards there. It takes about 2 minutes. You go through, my daughter's up to like 40 or 50. You go through them as fast as you can. You want super fast recall. You don't want to use like memory songs. I know a lot of the curriculums use memory songs, and that's great for Bible verses and other things. But for letters, it has to be like instantaneous, right? When you're reading a paragraph, you're decoding those sounds, 100 times a second, or 100 times a minute. So you can't be sitting there thinking of a song in your head while you're reading, right? So that daily practice. And then the literature we'll do from 10:40 to 11:20. Little House in Big Woods, they'll do their coloring pages. They'll record their questions in notebooks. Take a little lunch break, get back together for electives for that music appreciation. So the music appreciation, we're going to get to that in a second. So the electives, the music appreciation. So this is from Miss Marlene. She gave me this description. The class will be conducted as an intimate circle time style in which engaging singing, games, and rhythm-based activities are used to teach students in a variety of lessons about sounds, pitch, dynamics, rhythm, musical notes, and patterns, along with learning and composers, music appreciation, and many wonderful songs to enjoy. So we plan on doing this just as an 8-week course. We'll talk about the pricing and all that in a second, but and then this is the first time we've done an elective, so we're just doing a short period. We'll see how it works out, and then we'll continue. If people are enjoying it and it's working out, we'll continue it on for the rest of the year. But we're just going to try it out like that. And then for the older kids, we have the piano, and she actually broke it out into kind of an 8-week syllabus, and we can share that with you guys. But that will be actually learning how to play the piano, how to read music, and she's a skilled piano teacher, and she's been doing that for years. Field trips. So these are just a few pictures of different places that we went last year. The fire station, the police station. We did a singing event at the Assisted Living Center. We sang for those folks, and they really loved doing that. And we're actually doing some this summer again. Miss Marlene has something in July. She wants to do another one, so if you're interested, I'll send out an email from everyone in Valor Academy if they want to go and sing. And I think she's doing a cowboy theme, so they're going to do some square dancing and singing and stuff. If you guys are interested in that, but we'll do that. So we do the 3 weeks. Where we get together, and then the 4th week, it's not 100% that schedule, but we try to stay consistent with that as much as possible based on holidays and things, especially during Christmas time, things get kind of out of whack. But, we'll do the same thing this year. So, quick discussion on the application process. So, we'll have kind of a two-step thing. We'll have an application that you fill out through Community Center. We'll be announcing that this Sunday, hopefully, if I can get it done in time. But the plan is to do it this Sunday, and we'll send out an email or something if I can't get it done by then. But so we'll do an application. If you were already involved last year, we won't do the interview. But if if you haven't been part of the program before, we'll do an interview, and we'll just discuss. We have things like statement of faith and just some of the rules that we just kind of want to make sure that we're on the same page and we agree on, make sure that you're a good fit and we're a good fit for you guys. And then once we do that, then we'll have the registration where you can pick your class, whether you want to do the 2 classes or you want to do electives. And so pricing, same as last year, the registration, a flat fee of $100 for the entire family, regardless of the number of kids. And then for each class, so those 2 classes, the Monday classes, language arts, the Thursday classes, Liberty Ed, is $310 per child, so per class. So if you did both, it'd be $620, plus books. So there are a couple, for the language arts, there are books. For the history class, there's no material costs. And then for I don't have all the material costs added up yet, but I'll get that to you before the registration time. And then the elective is just that 8-week course, $50. And then for anyone interested in being a tutor or teaching elective, the kind of pricing structure is the 80% of that money will go to the person teaching that class. That's where the vast majority of all the money goes, is the people teaching. And then the rest will just be for, any resources that we need to purchase. Like for history, we buy arts and crafts and things like that. So kind of a 20% overhead plus the rest. So there is some compensation. It's not a ton of money. It's not going to be what you would get if you were, a teacher in a public school or a private school, but a little something to compensate you, at least cover costs for the time you take out, gas money and things like that. Discounts, so a 5% discount for additional children after the first. So I know there was, I think 4 kids was the biggest family we had last year. So after the first child, Yvonne had 4 kids. So she got the discounts. And then if you do volunteer as for a tutor, so you would get 50% discount off the first child, in addition to the 80% of the tuition, and that would just be the 80% of the fee per class. So basically, the number of kids you teach, you'll be compensated more. So volunteers. So we talked a little bit about that kind of throughout, but if you are interested, and I've got a few people that have already reached out to me about different areas, send me an email. I check that email address, and Pastor Simon looks at that sometimes too. Info@Liberty Ed, Valor Academy. So a couple things, background checks are required. Everybody that serves at Valor Academy has to be background checked. So you can feel comfortable that everyone, we know that everyone has been checked out, that's serving, that's teaching. We don't check all the parents, but the parents are never to be kind of left alone with the children. It's always a teacher with a background checked person with the kids at all times. So what we do need is a child care tutor for the Little Eagles, if you're interested in doing that. We need tutors for the language arts. I know a couple people are interested in that, and I'll probably help out along with that as well. We need tutors for history, I believe, especially for high school, if anyone's interested in doing the high school or the older kids, like 7th and 8th. We need that. We need quite a few. So if you're interested in doing the tutor, and then for the actual electives that the music electives, we do have a tutor for that already. But if you're interested in teaching something else that we can add on, then we're open to add those things as well. So during that language arts day on Monday, since we're only doing the younger kids, we were thinking we could have like a study hall area, maybe use that kitchen, the coffee area, where older kids can come and study, but we'll need someone to kind of monitor them and make sure they're not just running around going crazy on their own. So if you're interested in doing that, we definitely need people for security, just to make sure. We don't want to leave the doors open so anyone can kind of just come in. So someone to kind of monitor those doors, make sure that any unknown person's not coming through while we have school going on. And there may be some other areas needed as well, but we'll get that list kind of fleshed out before this Sunday when we kind of send out the applications. But you actually don't need that application. If you're interested, just send me an email to that list. So that's it. If you have any questions, you can just stand up and I'll repeat it into the mic. And if there's no questions, then I'll just hang out and you guys can come up and look at the curriculum and I can kind of walk you through it. But any questions? Cindy? Yeah, that's for the whole year. The only part that was a partial segment was the 8 weeks for the elective.
David, just real quick, when somebody asks a question,
Oh,
just
yes.
recording, answer it, say what the question was when you answer it. That way people watching it online will know what the question was.
Yeah, so the question was the $310 tuition fee for the class, is that for the whole year? And the answer is yes, for the language arts and the history class, that's for the entire year. The only part that was for a segment of the year was the elective, which we're breaking it up into, I guess that would be a trimester. Yeah. Yes, ma'am? The question is the price for the Little Eagles the same? I totally forgot to add that to it is less. I don't want to quote the price. I can look it up real quick in a second if you want to hang out, and I can give you that price. Any other questions? Yes. So the question is, how do you apply for Valor Academy? So we're going to announce it this Sunday. There will be a link sent out in the announcements. They send out an email. It'll probably be on the. Are you going to say it during service too? I'm guessing.
Announce it during the announcement time. It'll go out as a weekly announcement email, and then also if you're registered for being here tonight, we'll send it to that email list as well.
Okay. Yeah. So Pastor Simon's answer to that was. We will announce it during Sunday service, during the announcement times. We'll send out it in the weekly announcements, and then if you registered for this class, you will also get the registration link by this Sunday. Yes, ma'am. I don't think we had a cutoff date. So our goal is to have, I believe we set 8 to 15 kids per age group. So just based on when that fills up. So last year, some of the age groups filled up, and others, we didn't have enough kids, so we had to combine. So the sooner the better, just so to make sure that it doesn't fill up too quick. Yeah, so I think the older kids were less, so you're probably a little safer waiting a little longer with the older kids, but the younger ones, you might want to do it sooner. Lena? Can you say that again? Yes, so Dr. Andrade, Dr. Mills sent me that list, and I actually have the full curriculum, and I can share that with you, and I have the list of all the topics, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I haven't had a chance to kind of dive into it yet. But the idea is before the beginning of the year, I tried to get the curriculum a lot sooner this year so that we can have kind of these graphical organizers and these vocabulary words pulled out and the principles pulled out so that we're not kind of scrambling every week to have those defined. And then we can kind of send those out so the parents know what's coming too. And then have that in that binder that we send home every week so you know what was discussed, you know the principles that we're talking about, you know the vocabulary words, and you can practice those at home. And then, like I said, with the memory work will be checked in class by the tutor themselves, especially Bible verses. But any work that we would like to kind of record, we'll do that in the binder. Yes, Cindy. Yes. Yeah. So we'll have that notebook provided to you guys as part of the tuition. We'll create it, and I plan on having an orientation day where we'll just kind of go through the process, and the kids can set up their binder. They'll have a tab for history, a tab for music, a tab for family service, a tab for language arts, and we'll create cover pages, and they can kind of decorate their notebooks and make it, kind of individualize it to their, to just make it fun for them. And then we'll kind of go over what we're going to learn for the year in that kind of orientation day. Do a few different things there. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you very much. I'm going to hang out for a little while. If you guys want to just browse and kind of look at the different books, feel welcome to come up. But thank you all. I appreciate your time. Thank you.